Minimalist, Never Touch the Stuff, and Remarkable Agent are the 3 most challenging achievements Resident Evil Requiem has to offer, with Minimalist banning us from using the Blood Collector, basically eliminating crafting, turning Grace into every AI product. Useless and shit. Never Touch the Stuff takes away everyone's favorite pastime of consuming hardcore drugs, meaning just like for the average American citizen, healthcare is off the table. Last but not least, Remarkable Agent requires us to finish the game on the Insanity difficulty, rearranging item placements, making enemies faster than the speed of light, and dialing up their damage and HP numbers up to 11. Each of these achievements by itself already presents quite a substantial challenge, but I wanted my first playthrough on Insanity to be as aneurysm-inducing as possible. So how about we get all of them at the same time? In addition, we're going to enrich this experience with a dash of cyanide by banning all bonus items, meaning no infinite ammo, no bonus guns, no weapon charms, and most importantly, no additional weapon upgrades. I mean, what could go wrong? Meet Grace Ashcroft, local female body inspector and future child endangerment specialist, tasked to investigate a murder at the same hotel her mother suffered a fatal neck injury in, via decapitation. Thanks to conversation skills drier than Ben Shapiro's wife, Grace pissed off the local police force, forcing her to enter the hotel alone. Inside we were confused what all the fuss was about. This place just looked like the average hotel in New York. However, when we discovered a photo of us with a key attached to it, the atmosphere shifted. And as we inspected the room upstairs, with hundreds of photos of us spread out on the bed, it was clear. We've got a stalker. Downstairs we found the officer from earlier had followed us in. Turns out he was just a meth addict looking for his next fix. In shock, our Apple Watch got stuck on the bell card. Thankfully, our new friend offered to break us free with his shotgun. As a thanks, we helped him look for his stash upstairs when all of a sudden he fell out of a window. Anyways, still on the hunt for that sweet dopamine hit, we headed to the attic. But instead of hardcore drugs, we found the choker, who, you guessed it, choked us out. In the meantime, we got introduced to former secret agent and scorned action movie star turned influencer Leon sex offender Kennedy on his way to advertise smoking to children. However, when we spotted some creep abducting a woman in the middle of a busy road, we had to step in. I mean, in what world do we live where you can just kidnap citizens for no reason? Oh. To facilitate his getaway, our kidnapper injects the surrounding population with autism, with us hot on his heels. Finally getting control of Leon, right away Insanity's changes start to worry me. If the game gives you the ability to upgrade right at the start, you know you're in for a proper fisting. We grab the pump action shotgun, witness every incel's biggest worry, for which we have the perfect solution at hand. However, mistakes were made, missing out on our melee window, resulting in our neck getting kissed, forcing a reset on literally the first enemy in the game. You know, sometimes I don't even know why I attempt stuff like this. On our second attempt, we provided her with brain surgery, making it to the main road, where shit hits the fan. The amount of enemies here is staggering, and thanks to Insanity, enemies come flying at you at the speed of light, resulting in our next reset, followed by another, and another, and another. Running past these mouth breathers wasn't going to work, so I came up with a plan. We take out Tweedledee, loop around the side, buying us enough time to avoid the blister heads, hand out some chiropractic care, sticking to the left side, blasting anyone who stands in our way. We witness the average traffic situation in Vienna, blast 3 approaching crack addicts back to hell, finally surviving the first encounter. But looking back, taking 45 minutes to get past the first section of the game was not a good sign. In another change of scenery, we are back in control of Grace, waking up restrained in a creepy house. After cutting ourselves free, we start exploring the place. We find a key at the end of the hall, letting us access the bedroom, where we grab the lighter, and an item which is going to be important very soon, the empty bottle, as well as the fuse we need to get out of here. However, we needed a screwdriver to get it. This led us back to the nursery station, where we found a nice surprise. Oh, not him. Meet Donna Versace, Archer, this game's version of Mr. X, just without the Y chromosomes. We sprint back towards our room, tripping over ourselves every other step. Fortunately, just like most gamers, she's allergic to light, keeping us safe for now. With her disappearing through the ceiling, we head back to the nursery station to continue our search, walking past the med injector with tears streaming down our face. We find our target atop a shelf, and fortunately there's a car to help us reach it. With the beauty queen fast approaching, we just go for it, grabbing the screwdriver and hiding behind a near desk. We sneak past on our way to grab the fuse when she bursts through the door, requiring us to run back into the nursery station. But we stay calm, wait for her to pop her head in the room, and then we book it in the opposite direction, grab the fuse and barely make it out. Or maybe not, as we get dragged back off into the shadows. Slowly developing schizophrenia, we are put back in Leon's shoes as he pulls up on the local insane asylum. Wait, why are we at my house? They were expecting us, having prepared everything for Leon's colonoscopy. At the pharmacy, we sell a pump-action shotgun to get our hands on the 990 and give it a damage boost, heading towards the doctor's office. However, instead of an examination, we found out why this place was drowning in malpractice lawsuits.
I think I want a second opinion.
That second opinion being a chainsaw shoved up our ass. With Capcom finally fulfilling every RE's fan's dream to become Dr. Salvador, I was banking on the chainsaw being our ticket out of here. However, the chainsaw is a trap. It's insanely slow, takes away our ability to parry, and for some reason doesn't stagger enemies on attack, which means we'll take damage. Something we can't afford this early on. But the chainsaw doesn't just trigger shiny object syndrome for us, but also for these cucks. By shooting Timo Dr. Salvador in the face, he drops the chainsaw, sending all the others into a frenzy trying to get their hands on it, ending up in serious workplace injuries, giving us free rein to take them out one by one, turning the entire thing into a cakewalk, at least eventually. Arriving in the main hall, we interrupt Grace's abduction with some of that good old-fashioned American freedom. Grace, starstruck, gets Leon's iced-out gun as a gift, as well as a slightly inappropriate picture. What am I supposed to do with that? Hello? It turns out the kidnapper is our doctor. Oh, then all of this must have been a huge misunderstanding. Sorry about your staff. So while Leon gets his rectum examined, we're back in Grace's shoes, who's more than ready to leave the funhouse. But with the entire place on lockdown, we had to find a way out first, which led us to the basement, where we discovered a locked up child. And Grace, not just having a -1 in charisma, but also -1 in intelligence on her character sheet, commits a blunder on the same level as asking a fat woman if she's pregnant.
You can't see, can you?
Outraged, her caretaker dies from a stroke. This, however, was a blessing in disguise, as he's carrying a keycard, our ticket out of here. And so we left the child behind and started to explore the asylum. To get out of this hellhole, we had to find 3 different quarters hidden all over. But first, in another display of incompetence, my plan to conserve Leon's Requiem ammo had failed. A quick peek at our inventory reveals we only have a single shot available. With how valuable even a single shot of this gun is, we are basically unarmed for the time being. So our first task, find a weapon. But unlike on the lower difficulty options, we won't find a gun in the dining hall. So where then? This brings us to the 2 options we have available. Number 1, the S&S M232 with decent damage and a +10 boost to our sex appeal, which we can find in the bar and lounge area. Or option number 2, the B934, located in the East Wing, which is worse in every single aspect. On paper, going for the S&S sounds like a no-brainer, but getting it is sketchy as fuck. Inside the lounge, there are 3 zombies. A drunk Bill Cosby waiting to have his way with us, always sleepy Steve except for when we want to get past, and Sydney Sweeney. Getting through without being screamed at for not having such good genes, or getting tackled to the floor because Steve woke up the exact same frame we tried to get past him, while Bill just watches from his cuck chair, was just not happening. So B934 it is. Into the West Wing we go, arriving inside of the kitchen, where we spot our first major headache of this run, Gordon Ramsay. But the man really let himself go.
Where's the lamb sauce?
The food he's prepping looks like shit. And make no mistake, it tastes like shit too. Which I can personally attest to after being force-fed his cleaver. The most consistent strat I found to get past him was shoving the gravy cart forward until he spots us, using his spasm to reposition behind the grill and wait for him to push the cart out of the way.
Oh shit.
After participating in a second tasting, our strat finally works, letting us lure him around the side, stealing his coin and fleeing into the corridor, just to get tackled down by some molester hiding in the shadows. I fucking hated him. A few more resets later and I finally came up with a consistent route. Right after we get past the chef, we run towards the end of the corridor and flip on the light switch. Just like how billionaires are drawn to underage girls, this zombie is drawn to light switches. So by letting him engage in his favorite activity, we can sneak past him, letting us open the shortcut and run past the dinner party in the hall, grabbing another empty bottle, leading us to the staircase, where the empty bottle comes in handy. By throwing it at this guy's face, he gets stunned, letting us push him aside, buying us enough time to get to the second floor. We run past the lounge, into the chairman's office, where we solve the puzzle box, netting us the first quartz. Inside the office, we sprint past the chairman, committing sexual assault on his assistant, stealing his safety box, and we finally made it back to the main hall, securing our progress for the first time in what felt like hours. However, that was only the easy part. Inside the chairman's case of cocaine, we found a red gem, granting us access to the parlor. And inside said parlor, there are some vending machines, where we can use the change we stole off the homeless to unlock useful items like an inventory pouch or steroids to increase our HP, or best of all, a stabilizer, boosting our damage output. But in a sick twist of fate on insanity, the devs replaced the steroids and the stabilizer with useless shit. Seeing as crafting is more or less off the table thanks to Minimalist, we won't be able to get any upgrades to Grace's stats, which was concerning. To make things even worse, as we were about to grab the East Wing access card, we got grabbed and our neck kissed once again. Repeating this bullshit unarmed 10 times was annoying, but what was even more annoying was making it out only to get a cleaver stuck up my asshole. Brute forcing this was just not going to cut it, so we had to use a more measured approach. By leading Dr. Shit for Brains around the roulette table, we can put enough space between the two of us to safely grab the key card, and running him around the table on the way out, we avoid Gordon Ramsay, finally granting us access to the East Wing. We snuck past the enemies in the examination room to get to the waiting area, and there she was, just absolutely stunning. The B934, finally a way to defend ourselves. However, in another sick twist of fate, or maybe just a lack of research on my end, this gun is complete and utter dog shit. With resources basically non-existent and firing this gun seemingly healing our enemies, we were back to square one. I tried to make it work for hours, but the amount of resources we had to burn through just to take out a single enemy was just too much. So I decided to reset back to the start to either get the SNS or let this long overdue aneurysm finish the job. With a win secured either way, we made it upstairs to observe these troglodytes roaming around the lounge area. And just 3 resets later, we did it. By hiding behind this pillar right here and letting Sydney Sweeney walk by, we can sneak around on the other side, waking up Steve. But letting him stumble to the left side gives us enough space to make it to the bar, grabbing the SNS. We ended up getting spotted, but in a rare moment of things going well for once, we only took little damage, giving us a window to escape. We might not be at full health, but I didn't care. And so I ran towards the safe room as if my life depended on it. With our newly gained firepower, we clear out the parlor, using the vending machine for a nice new item pouch, and finally return to the East Wing. Our next goal, securing the level 1 wristband on the 2nd floor. As we move towards the waiting room area, we get greeted by the senior living travel group. But by hiding behind the bushes until they split up, we can sneak up on Grandma, delivering some much needed brain surgery. And after dealing with our second guest, we had a clear path to the 2nd floor, getting our hands on the level 1 wristband, but at the cost of introducing us to Jabba the Hutt, whose fat ass will be roaming around this side of the asylum from now on, which was just great. We make it to the waiting room, making sure to send the hearing sensitive guy into a fit of rage before we unlock the level 1 security door. door, grabbing the pantry key and the RIP knife. At first I didn't think much of this thing, but trust me, it will come in handy very soon. Unfortunately, since we can't use the blood collector, the blood sample here was worthless, and so we headed back to the West Wing. You might be thinking, what the fuck is this routing? But trust me, this will all make sense very soon. We take down another zombie guarding the kitchen door, a decision I will come to regret very soon, letting us unlock the pantry to let the workers out, heading back to get past the second level 1 security door, letting us grab the wrench. From there we move into the garage to collect the organ transport box, just to get ambushed by a bulldozer. But by shooting the driver in the head and blowing up the engine, we make it out without a dent. Next up we return to the kitchen. Since we opened up the pantry earlier, its inhabitants moved out into the hallway, letting us sneak past them, leaving only a single enemy inside that we had to deal with, by giving him the London experience. Inside we found some Requiem ammo and the stakeout takeout charm, improving the knife's damage output. However, if we think back to the rules we set before the start of this challenge, using bonus items and charms is banned. So technically speaking, I cheated by picking this up, but at the time I wasn't aware that picking up charms for grace added them to your item box permanently, and in the grand scheme of things, this really didn't do much for us. But if you wanted to call me a fraud, now you can, so like and subscribe. We returned upstairs, collecting a few more items. Sights set on our next stop, cold storage. We hand out a free concussion to the security guard on the stairs, entering cold storage, with the help of the wrench, letting us grab the artificial heart. But the way out of here was a bit problematic. Fortunately, we can lure our stalker around the table here until the chef gets bored. Now, we could just return to the East Wing to safely progress, but there's one item I really wanted to get my hands on, and it's locked in the filing room around the corner, our second item pouch. So slowly and carefully we walked inside, grabbing it, but our way back was cut off, so we had to escape via the dining hall, which went as well as you would imagine, by which I mean it fucking sucked. So we had to do all of this again, which brought another set of problems with it. For some reason this time around, shooting the sous chef alerts the entire kitchen staff, who come pouring in to add us to the menu. I honestly have no idea why it worked the first time around, but I realized I had to come up with a different strategy. So I decided to tackle the cold storage area first. But my fixation on the item pouch brought another set of issues with it. This guy right here, running past him, impossible. Stunning him with a glass bottle, maybe that could work. Oh no. Ah. I fucking hate this game. I refused to leave without the pouch, which was why the next attempt was unbelievable. For the first time that guy wasn't here, as he was too busy staring out the window, letting us grab the pouch and the artificial heart without interference. We returned to the kitchen, stabbing the sous chef to death and running a circle around the approaching sex offenders. However, this is where I started to regret killing the guy in front of the kitchen. RE9 has a mechanic where if you leave enemies lying around without blowing them up, which by the way we literally can't do because we don't have access to the blood collector, they transform into blister heads. And unfortunately for us, unlike your mom, they're not just ugly. They're fast, hit like a freight train, and besides lobotomizing them with the Requiem, basically unkillable. So yeah, not great. We made a break for the pantry, grabbing our loot, but we were too slow. He was already approaching. My heart dropped out of my asshole as I held my breath. I couldn't believe it. We really made it out. We ran towards the typewriter like a maniac, committing the most important save of my gaming career, making sure we'd never have to repeat this bullshit ever again. Our return trip to the examination room went exactly as you would expect, but by luring the surgeon into the hall and applying some precise incisions into his chest area, we can provide our patient with the organs he so desperately needs. I forgot to take out the lungs. Alright, sorry. Be right back. Oh, you fucking piece of shit. shit. Another mental breakdown later, we remember to bring his lungs as well, raising him from the dead, just to enter cardiac arrest literally 5 seconds later. But we take those, granting us access to the level 2 wristband with which we could enter the security office, containing another puzzle box. However, this one's engravings are scratched off, only the braille remaining. With the solution already in hand and our FBI training, we came up with a truly masterful plan. Kidnap a blind child at gunpoint to force her to read for us. Sure, what could go wrong? Unfortunately, some new patients made themselves at home in the waiting area, and getting past the blister heads while carrying a child was just not going to work. So we had to come up with a new plan. By outsourcing our murder to the patients, we can secure safe passage through the waiting area. We avoid Jabba's grabby fat fingers returning to the security office, and while Emily figures out the puzzle, we deal with some uninvited guests. However, the unfortunate truth is that even though we have the best gun available to us, our firepower is still absolutely miserable, making fighting off just 2 enemies a massive challenge, let alone 4 of them. But a keyboard smash and another few resets later, I came up with a plan. By luring both of these troglodytes to this room, we can vault outside right as number 1 crawls through the window, letting us position at the far end of the room, giving us time to perfectly line up a shot with the Requiem to take both of them out. With no time to lose, we stab the patient in the next room over to death, putting ourselves in a great position to unload on the final approaching zombie. With the hard part over, we can hide in the adjacent room, waiting for the blister head to arrive, taking him down with our final Requiem bullet. We returned back to Emily, who figured out the puzzle, retrieving the second quartz. But in a not so surprising twist of events, it turned out that bringing a child into a zombie infested area was a moronic idea, as Donna Versace absconds with Emily, and much worse, our key to get out of here. In the meantime, Leon's colonoscopy didn't yield the results he had hoped. The diagnosis: cancer, and it's terminal. But seeing as Dr. Gideon looks like he died 6 months ago and that his treatment plan would bankrupt us, we decided we'd rather break into his study to steal the cure. Unfortunately, that was easier said than done, as Jabba's responsible for guarding the attic. But his geriatric speed lets us run him around the arena, issuing out democracy when he gets stuck in a doorframe. And as long as we avoid his charge attack, we can repeat this process, letting us lure him onto this ledge, followed by a grenade to blow him off, finishing him like we're Connor from Assassin's Creed 3. It felt liberating to for once not have to cower in fear of every single enemy, with Leon's axe providing traumatic head injury on command. But before we headed to Gideon's office, we had one more thing to take care of. We entered the West Wing, euthanizing all the remaining patients, leading us to the 2nd floor, bringing us to the reason why we skipped this area when we were playing as Grace. Inside the conference room, there's another Karen, ready to scream at service workers for forgetting her Diet Coke, accompanied by her equally annoying soccer mom group. As Grace, this section would have definitely ended with my fist going through my monitor. But as Leon, we were in control, easily taking care of all the enemies here, with the extra reward of some much needed points to further upgrade our weapons. You might think I planned this route in a very smart way, but truth be told, I did not. I wasted the better part of 2 hours making this section work as Grace. Fuck! But with the magic of editing, I could make myself look like I'm actually good at this game, which I now ruined. Anyways, we return to the East Wing, handing Gordon Ramsay the lamb sauce he's been asking for. But something must have gotten lost in translation, because I shot him to death. We finally break into Gideon's office, only to realize that this place looks even more horrific than the rest of the building. Fortunately, dealing with blisterheads as Leon is actually possible, even if there is no shortage of bullshit around here. As we try to open the secret door, we get swarmed by another wave, but grenades help incapacitate the attackers, letting us decapitate them in peace, giving us access to Gideon's computer. Unfortunately, we found nothing for our treatment, but we did find a clue. El Penis? That has to be some kind of Mexican cartel, plus a picture of Grace. What has she got to do with this? As we took back control of Grace, I realized we finally managed to leave the first area after 10 hours, which was a relief and at the same time depressing. The amount of bodies in this area was concerning, but what was even more concerning was the question: why on earth is there a prison complex below a hospital, and why did Donna bring a child here? Potential human trafficking violations aside, we had more pressing issues, as we had to save Emily, or more accurately, the key to get out of here. However, However, to open the cell we had to find 2 additional plugs that in typical Resident Evil fashion powered everything, yet there were only 3 of them. How do people in this universe ever get anything done? Removing the first plug makes our sleep paralysis demon spawn in, which we try to avoid by hiding behind a toilet that hasn't been cleaned in 10 years. We unlock the door in the central hub, force the shift worker here to take a break by murdering him, letting us grab the second plug and sneak out through the air duct. But our return trip to the main hole was less than ideal. So on attempt number 2 we enact the average person's experience traveling to London, giving us a clear path to collect the range, or so I thought. On attempt number 3 we finally managed to grab the range, just to nearly die from a heart attack seconds later. But by sneaking around the back we made our escape, unlocking the electrical box, taking care of the technician restoring power to the local AI data center. We found the final plug, but without the ability to cross the river of feces, we had to find an alternative way to the other side. Fortunately we also found the forklift keys lying around here, netting us another item pouch as well as access to a new area. Nope, we're not going that way. By taking the route through the air duct, once again we turned the power back on, without getting our head removed, letting us switch on the human body conveyor belt, and after waiting an egregious amount of time we found a place to slot in. We could finally drain the feces, which as it turns out was just blood, which is still disgusting. Our journey here was surprisingly smooth, but that was going to change now. As soon as we jumped down we were greeted by a nice amount of ammo and a Molotov cocktail. As nice as this was, I knew it was a bad omen, which it was as the meat grinder started up. This section was a disaster. With our still criminal damage output, the local sex offender ring posed a serious threat. Enemies sometimes taking 10 shots to the cranium to stagger, pushing them into the grinder drained our resources quickly. Add on top of that these bastards can still come sprinting at you at the speed of light, and you have the perfect recipe for a keyboard smash. However, if we get good RNG, we can push each one of them into the next package of grass-fed ground beef at your local Walmart. And sometimes their lack of brain activity even does the job for us. With that nightmare survived, we grabbed the final plug, making it out via the attached blood slide, back through the air duct to retrieve our butt plug. No, you're joking, right? After somehow dying a second time in an even more embarrassing fashion, we did it again in attempt number 3. But on attempt number 4, I managed to conduct enough power through my 2 remaining brain cells to step back and torch Donna's delicate skin by reinserting the plug, giving us a safe way out of here, finally letting us free Emily, as well as all of Renwood's child molesters. But by just running straight to the elevator we make it out, traumatic experience aside. Thank God Emily's blind, otherwise she'd be scarred for life. We dropped her off at the sofa and returned to the second floor, which is completely cleared of enemies thanks to Leon, letting us grab the corrosive, which we can use to unlock the third and final quartz. We needed to escape. After collecting Emily and unlocking the door, we could finally taste fresh air again. And in a surprise twist, this place comes equipped with a helipad. Unfortunately though, the pilot misplaced the keys and can't be asked to get them back. So to definitely bring the Mother of the Year award home, we entrust Emily to a complete stranger, head inside, solve the puzzle to unlock the secret elevator to the lab area, where it seemed like Gideon tried to create Captain Molester. We pick up the helicopter keys in the security office and use the opportunity to eavesdrop on Gideon, talking to someone named Zeno. But before we could find out anything, he decided to blow the place up, meaning we had to escape. But with the elevator gone and no way to recall it, we were stuck. This seems like a major design flaw. We head back into the lab area, with the test subjects now out and about. You know, as someone who's from a German-speaking country, it felt quite uncomfortable having to gas prisoners to get out of here. With the entire Cyclone B supply in the US used up, we make it through where shit really hits the fan. Fortunately, the stream of blood knocks down the remaining enemies, letting us escape via the stairs. I'm not going to lie, that has to be the most BS enemy placement I have ever seen. By letting this raging alcoholic finish his stumble into the wall we can run past to actually escape this time. Covered in blood and presumably every disease known to man, we make it back to the helicopter, despite our busted kneecap. Surprisingly, Emily's still in one piece, which won't be the case for long as the entire hospital population wants to catch a ride out of here with us. To make things worse, it turns out Captain I Can't Walk So Good got his pilot's license off of Craigslist. Well, that wasn't the best landing, but at least we all made it out in one piece. In another change of perspective, Leon witnesses the crash thinking, "Mike, is that you?" Unfortunately, or actually fortunately, it was just Grace who for some reason had abducted a child. Instinctively, Leon's training kicked in, grabbing the nearest rifle to shoot the child. But as we escaped the cutscene, we realized we got scammed. Our rifle gone, locked behind a paywall at the item box. Why one of these was up here on the roof in the first place was beyond me, but considering we used to buy weapons off of a homeless man in Spain, nothing should really surprise me. We part with our hard-earned cash we got by euthanizing the mentally ill, acquiring our rifle just to realize its scope was locked behind DLC. Hitting targets 3 zip codes away without a scope did not exactly spark joy, even less so when the next serving of insanity bullshit darkened our vision. Not just did we have no scope on our rifle, but this guy over here decided to get up out of his cuck chair while a blisterhead readied himself to caress our rear. We managed to deal with them, but they did buy enough time for Gordon Ramsay to serve Grace her final meal. Well, at least now we could grab a scope for the rifle. By blowing up the explosive, we take care of Gordon and his camera crew. We slid off the roof,
Excuse me.
making our way to the chapel, but Emily wasn't doing so hot. We tell Grace to get Emily out of here, while we hold up the fast approaching The Last of Us crossover. If you have cabin fight PTSD, I don't blame you. But there's a key difference here, the big guy. To take him out, we got to pop all of his pimples. There's just one problem. Each time we do this, he lets one rip, turning all the zombies that still have the head attached into blister heads, which, let me tell you, was not a good time. This is so fucking annoying. So after getting my head slurped up like an egg, I found a strategy. By shooting the zombies in the head with a shotgun, they get knocked over, letting us perform precise brain surgery, eliminating them from the blister birthing pool. And by using their drop weapons to stun the bloater, we get a free kick to pop one of the pimples each time, securing our victory quickly. Just make sure to deal with the stragglers. In the meantime, Grace drops off Emily on a bed manufactured in North Korea, while she secures a way out of here, with the looming threat of Donna Versace hiding in the shadows. As we regain control of Grace, I almost shat myself. With the game gifting us 5 rounds of Requiem ammo, I was expecting all sorts of bullshit waiting for us downstairs. In a shocking twist, the power was out again, requiring us to turn 3 handles to get it back up. But this was surprisingly easy. I won't pretend that I didn't get murdered a couple of times, which by the way was absolute horseshit. Just look at this. What's the point of even tracking her position just so she can pop out right next to me a second later? Involuntarily increasing my risk of heart failure aside, we find some more Requiem rounds. Burn out Donna's retinas and her skin after switching the first light back on, making our way to the other side of the arena, where we pick up a second Molotov cocktail. And even though this switch was stuck, we buy ourselves enough time to flip it on by sending 2 Requiem rounds straight through her dome. This brings us to the final switch, where we first have to collect the crank, giving Donna the opportunity to toss us aside. But another 2 shots to the head stun her long enough for us to finish turning the power back on, letting us take the elevator back upstairs. But she's just not getting the hint, requiring us to fire 2 additional bullets, letting us open the roof, and finally burning her shriveled and disgusting body into dog shit. However, all of this effort was futile, as Emily had passed away in the meantime. Or had she? Someone should call the exorcist. That's not how a small child should look like. Fortunately, the exorcist aka Leon arrived just in time. Grace was begging him to spare her, but she didn't know Leon's favorite pastime. With Emily banished to the Shadow Realm, Grace suffers a mental breakdown, returning her gift and Leon's lewd photo, running off into the darkness. But before we could chase after her, the cancer reared its ugly head in. But in a moment of reflection, Leon notices the picture. That wasn't meant for her. Grace, at her breaking point, nearing the exit, finds Gideon, who wants her to come with him. She agrees, and so he introduces her to Zeno, aka Timu Wesker, who has big plans for her to fulfill her destiny. Realizing the errors of his ways, wanting to apologize to Grace, and more importantly find a cure to not die an excruciating death, we head after her, back to where it all began. Exploring the city as Leon felt refreshing. Kicking ass and making progress without getting violently murdered every 5 seconds was just beautiful. But that feeling didn't last long, thanks to 8 hairy legs. Just like when you're vacationing in Australia, the best course of action is to get the fuck out of here. But Aragog was persistent, leaving us no choice but to jump headfirst through the drywall. Thank Christ we're in America. To punish his sins, we murder his entire family, which he didn't take so well. Overall, besides getting violently assaulted and taking damage in the most idiotic ways possible, this fight wasn't too bad. By shooting his ass pimple, as soon as he descends into the arena, we can get some early damage in, letting us lure him into the back, where we can toss an explosive canister into his face to stun him and unload an entire magazine of shotgun rounds. If we then lure him back to the entrance area, we can repeat the chase, jump up to the second floor to use the second explosive, and a few shots later we finally take him down, plunging into the local underground. A few moments later, we made it outside, discovering a gate cutting us off from central Raccoon City, where Grace and her newly found friends are headed. Seeing as using doors as intended is illegal in the RE universe, we had to bomb our way through. Fortunately, the BSAA, who somehow mysteriously vanished, left their entire equipment behind. However, they were spread out in different areas around the city that were currently inaccessible, except for the warehouse, which is where we went first. Inside said warehouse, we find the most annoying enemies in the game. Former BSAA soldiers turned ICE agents, or in simpler terms, zombies with guns. If we don't pay attention, they would cause resets in seconds. Seeing as healing is illegal, and I'd rather avoid dying to random bullshit in the hardest parts of the game, keeping our health in pristine condition was my #1 goal, even if I had to reset a million times to do so. With that in mind, we find our friend hiding atop the shelves, taking him out with a quick shot to the back of the head.
Hello?
By hiding behind the forklift here, we can lure in the remaining zombies without putting ourselves in danger. And even if we did end up resetting a couple of times, we made it out at full health. We grabbed the apartment keys upstairs, but another problem arose. To gain access to one of the areas containing a bomb part, we had to power up this generator, for which we needed fuel, requiring a trip to the gas station. So we take our first bomb part, ride the elevator downstairs and head to the apartment. Here we find a gift from God in the form of 2 Requiem rounds and another obstacle blocking our progress, requiring another detour to find some batteries. We sneak through the first area, securing battery #1, and by issuing our traumatic brain injury as well as skipping the bloater fight by smacking him in the face with a hammer, fully cranking the wheel while he's stunned, letting us escape safely to the streets, where we find the remaining BSAA agents, whose head just decided to explode for no reason before the camera feed cut out. We arrived at the gas station, but the peaceful atmosphere here made my spidey senses tingle, which made sense as we got assaulted by another chainsaw-wielding maniac right after picking up the fuel container. However, besides one cataclysmic stroke-inducing misplay on my end, this area turned out to be much easier than expected. Just like at the beginning of the game in the hospital section, the chainsaw is a trap, so by safely depositing it inside this random homeless man, we draw the remaining crack addicts out, acquainting them with our shotgun, leaving us only with radioactive Dr. Salvador. Fortunately, with the help of a grenade and every single one of our shotgun shells and an always satisfying chainsaw parry later, as well as 10 million rifle rounds, he was finally dealt with, letting us collect the fuel, opening up a lot of new areas, which we carefully explored, stocking up on a ton of resources before returning to the apartment. To gain access to the roof, we had to find the crank, which was right around the corner, just guarded by a lot of bullshit. But by immediately shooting this guy in the head after jumping down, turning around and issuing out some more democracy to the guys approaching from above, we make it out alive, securing the crank, reenact a scene from a game that I hate even more than I hate myself, making it to the roof. If you wondered what it was like to be an influencer in Dubai, look no further. Rockets raining down from above, the rich and powerful shitting in your mouth. Come on down to the Raccoon City Palm to get your daily dose of stoning. So yeah, in short, this place fucking sucked. After resisting the urge to punch a hole through my monitor, and learning how quickly I can reset to the last checkpoint thanks to my shit tier gameplay, I came up with a plan. We shoot the first mortar guy in the head as we walk up the stairs and serve the approaching guy with today's special in the form of shotgun shells. Taking out the armed guard by hiding behind this window, letting us shoot the next mortar operator in the head, at least eventually. Get some more of that Middle East experience and in true American fashion bomb the locals out of existence, gaining us access to the second part of the bomb, which apparently was a mating call for the remaining zombies in the area. But in a rare moment of competence, I made a smart play. We return back up to the mortar, bombing the approaching army into the afterlife again, letting us escape this shithole with only one more part to go. Our final piece takes us through a journey of post 9/11 architecture, complete with on-demand corridor creation. Technological marvels aside, it never felt easier to take out enemies, at least most of the time. We somehow managed to secure the final part in record time, but this just felt too easy. However, that was about to change. To get out of here, we had to get on this lift, which somehow survived a nuclear blast. To do so, we needed to turn these two wheels, but a quick glance to the right gave us our forecast: troglodytes, with a chance for an aneurysm. But by using our rifle, we can thin out the masses, and even though we had to taste this guy's flopping eyeball, we made it through on our second attempt, letting us turn the first wheel. The next area was sketchy, with enemies placed at literally every corner. But by taking it slow and dealing with the enemies one by one, lets us clear the ground floor easily, meaning we can just wait for Dr. Salvador to walk into range to blow him up, followed by waiting for him to come down here to blow him up a second time, finishing him off with our shotgun, letting us turn the second wheel. We got on the elevator, but this is where the party really started. The Raccoon City population wanted to show off their unmatched hospitality by choking me to death. But if we thin out the guests before they board our carriage, we avoid getting swarmed. The Requiem lets us deal with the blisterhead, and the consent shotgun keeps the rest of the adulterers away from us. And as quickly as that, we made it back to solid ground. Fun wasn't over yet though, as we were greeted by the welcoming committee. But honestly, this party just blew. With all the ingredients at hand, we could finally commit domestic terrorism, steal Chris Redfield's bike on our way to the city center. However, Dr. Gideon wasn't too pleased about our arrival, leading to some very drastic measures to deal with us, like blowing us up with a rocket launcher and unleashing his genetically engineered bloodhounds on us. Seeing as this section is basically an auto-scroller you could probably beat if you had no arms, we sent Gideon to the Shadow Realm in the most badass way possible. Fuck, I forgot to ask about the cure. With our death all but guaranteed, we had only one mission left. Apologize to Grace for our sexual deviancy. A wave of nostalgia washed over me when I spotted the RPD. After all this time, I was back where my RE journey began. However nice it was to soak in the sights, there was a new problem. Why does my game have cancer? We found the reason why they came here. A secret umbrella facility housing Elpis. Oh, it's not Elpenis. Am I dyslexic? To reach Grace, we had to get to the East Wing, but if you think back to 30 years ago, Marvin closed the shutters, so we had to head back up to the library to retrieve an old friend. And after getting vegan propaganda shoved down my throat, we finally made it to the East Wing. But there was one question on my mind. How did Grace and Zeno get in here? Plot inconsistencies aside, Grace suffers a stroke when Timo Wesker tells her that she was solely created for harvesting adrenochrome. With his Fountain of Youth secured, he departs for Ark, bringing in an old acquaintance to stop us. Mr. X, as ever, packs a punch, rearranging our internal organs to say hello. Escaping this raging alcoholic's grasp was, as per usual, an asshole-puckering experience. But it was sweet to see that even he felt a bit nostalgic. However, making it back to the main hall with him nowhere to be found felt weird, but we had bigger issues to worry about. With Grace now kidnapped and our lifespan looking shorter than my penis, we had to find a way into that secret umbrella facility, which apparently has a secret entrance below the orphanage. So we make a quick pit stop at Kendo's, reminiscing about almost shooting his daughter, and find the W870 shotgun I somehow missed on my first playthrough. This is where the run started to go to shit. I don't know what kind of cataclysm cataclysmic brain hemorrhage I suffered, but we sold our old shotgun, and seeing as selling weapons in RE9 is a bigger scam than religion, we didn't even have enough money left to fully upgrade the new one. So we wasted tens of thousands of points for a side grade at best. To make things worse, Mr. X decided to switch his hobby from stalking to organ harvesting, our first real boss fight. And damn, he was a tough one. But probably not for the reason you're thinking. His moveset is actually quite simple and the parry timings are very generous. But he has two moves that are complete and utter bullshit. First, the car flip, where he launches a car at you at the speed of light, and as soon as he hits phase 2, his charge attack, which I 100% believe is enforced damage. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying I spent hours trying to parry this attack to no avail. I was honestly losing my mind, especially because I hit the parry on the same attack every other time he used it. So after getting flattened by cars for 2 hours and contemplating diving headfirst out of my window, it finally happened. We parry his opening attacks, unloading our entire shotgun ammo into his disgustingly pulsating heart, making sure to have the Requiem at the ready when he jumps atop of the car. We keep parrying his attacks, dishing out damage as we retreat, always making sure our hatchet's durability is topped off, bringing us to phase 2, where we end up taking the enforced damage. We make sure to keep up the pressure, staying near multiple cars to avoid any potential bullshit, and after what felt like an eternity, we down him with our last remaining handgun rounds to finish his heart surgery for good. We finally won, but I started to get worried. Our damage was just non-existent. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to ban the full weapon upgrades. There wasn't much left of the orphanage, except for a conveniently placed tunnel that led us to another underground station, which in turn led to us getting assaulted by some plant, forcing us to take the express route down. Arriving at the Raccoon City Canyon, where, surprise, we got attacked by more plants. So after committing plant genocide, we arrive at the mother plant, our second straight boss fight within 10 minutes. And let me tell you, this one did not spark joy. Its stupid plant cocks truly pissed me off. And seeing as you had to kill all the plants here every single reset, and the time was approaching 4 AM, I got sloppy. This fight is by no means hard. You literally only have to run left and right. But the fatigue and sleep deprivation started to kick in. Tack on top of that our damage output was abysmal. At least that's what I gaslit myself into believing. And so we didn't reset after getting hit, finishing the fight with some damage taken, which definitely won't affect the rest of the challenge, right? We enter Ark, wondering if this place will offer the cure we need or actually give me cancer. Inside the safe room we stock up on ammo, but here we make the second grave mistake by not saving our progress. On our search for Grace we discover the security room, revealing her to be inside the heart of the facility. But to get there we first have to get past the Umbrella Gestapo. Fortunately these guys are not the toughest enemies. This was mistake number 3, which honestly at the time I didn't even notice. Yeah, the run finale was shaping up to be a big pile of dog shit. We take on the remaining Umbrella soldiers with some clean as fuck sniping, leading to a completely new discovery, at least for me. With the help of our 4-legged friend, we dispatch reinforcements, putting him down as a reward, just as God intended. However, this is where my previous mistakes should culminate in the desire to take a bath with a toaster, surpassing 100%. Our final hurdle blocking our path to Grace was door technician Hank, a duel to the death, the ideal scenario for CQC Leon. And on the surface this fight honestly doesn't sound so bad. Parry his combos until he staggers, pump around into him, rinse and repeat until he's dead. But he has one trick up his sleeve, the Achilles heel for my trigger happy little ADHD brain: delayed attacks. Still, all things considered, compared to some other games, these actually felt fair. The real problem is that thanks to my previous negligent actions, we were basically dead in a single hit. And to win this fight we had to land 30 perfect parries in a row. And that just wasn't happening. Then why not just reload an old save to get here with full HP, you might ask? Well, I would, but the last save I made was back when we started clearing out the crack addicts in Raccoon City, and I'd rather shit in my hands and clap than replay half the game. This was purely a skill issue, one we just had to overcome, but after almost 4 hours, we were still stuck here. By that time, I could feel the sun pierce my dried out little goblin eyes, but out of nowhere, I entered a trance-like state, hitting every single parry like it was nothing, entering the final phase without a scratch, just to continue the clinic we've been putting on. One more combo to go.
I'll complete this mission.
I was devastated, my spirit was broken, and for the first time in my life I just turned the game off and went to bed. With a healthy dose of 3 hours of sleep and the injection of some liquid breakfast into my bloodstream, we returned, standing face to face with Hank once again. Is that it? Yes! Finally. Winning this fight just to immediately get killed by some virgins dishonoring the rules of a 1v1 on Rust was just peak RE9 on insanity. But who cares, we did it. We finally made it to Grace, who still couldn't comprehend how she's the key to an infinite amount of adrenochrome. But we didn't care, we just wanted to apologize for our inappropriate conduct. But Zeno wasn't having it. As Andrew Tate's #1 supporter, he taught us a lesson in how real men are supposed to behave. Grace, having had enough of this alpha male bullshit, was ready to pull the trigger on herself, but we are not going to let her go, labeled a pervert, even if it kills us. We barely escaped, just like Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back, making it to the garbage dump, where finally we can explain to Grace that the photo wasn't for her, but for our special someone. Hours later, we finally reawaken, hopeful that she would forgive us, but we are told to shut up and help destroy this facility to stop the child abuse. I guess that's a bit more important than our bullshit. We boost her up and hand the reins over for Grace to clear the way. Arriving inside the lab, it felt weird to go back from carrying around the US defense budget in your pocket to nothing. A feeling that went from weird to terrifying when I saw Lickers had joined the party. But surprisingly, this section went much smoother than I expected. By just waiting and walking past him, we make it to the main hall, where we can distract the second Licker by throwing a bottle on the ground, letting us enter the lab on the far side of the room, where we find probably the most important item for this section, the bottle of acid. This thing fucks. A single bottle can dissolve any Licker dumb enough to get in our way. However, we can't waste them. Since we are still unable to craft basically anything, we only have access to 4 of them in total, meaning we need to pick just the right time to use them. We pick up both of them in the lab, incinerate the child molester hiding in the corner, letting us grab the override key. But our escape did work out as planned. Despite throwing our bottle, the Licker noticed us, so I did what any reasonable person would do in this scenario. I just ran like a little bitch, by some miracle making it past every enemy without taking damage. On our way back to Leon, we ran into another Licker, and I wanted to find out if we survived earlier through sheer dumb luck, or if running past them is actually viable. And a win for speedrunners all around the globe it was, letting us clear a path for Leon and unlocking a key to grant us access to the rest of this area. However, in a typical Umbrella way, the next door was blocked by the dumbest security system on Earth. To unlock said door, we had to find the Umbrella Dragon Balls hidden inside the facility, because a keycard would just make too much sense. First up, we take care of the security guard in the monitor control room, gaining us access to the 3rd acid bottle after we cracked the safe. The first Dragon Ball we were going to grab was on the west end of the facility. And don't get me wrong, we did end up getting violently dismembered a couple of times, but I found a pretty consistent way to get past here. By shooting this guy right at the start of the area, we lure in 2 Lickers waiting nearby, and with a precise throw of the acid bottle, we can immediately dissolve the first one while we retreat up the stairs, letting us finish the second with a single shot, marking this as the best resource trade in RE history. Inside the bioweapon room, we can barbecue the scientist in our way, letting us walk past the remaining lickers, securing the first ball. Our escape turned out a bit different than what I had planned, because I honestly didn't know you could climb through the window here. I just wanted that extra bottle, but it turned out to be quite convenient. Not only did we get an extra acid bottle, but by using a single empty bottle, we had a clean way out of here. Just kidding, this route sucked. I almost shat myself having to run away from a humongous amount of lickers again, but the just ignore and run past them strat really worked like a charm, which just leaves us with ball number 2, tucked away in the clean room, which required us to return to the east side. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this was complete dog shit. The enemy placement was rage-inducing no matter which route we took. Either we got a licker's tongue shoved up our ass, or we got tackled to the ground from outside our vision, ending with our neck kissed against our will. It was time to get creative. We just didn't have the firepower to win in a straight-up fight. By luring this guy out of the lab and shooting him in the head a couple of times, we sent the licker into a frenzy, making him join in on the fun. But we can just take him out with an acid bottle, letting us access the safe inside the lab, where we find a Molotov cocktail, which we use to disperse the masses congregating inside the doorway. But in a never-ending display of my incompetence, one of them survived, putting us on life support. Barely hanging on, we make it to the clean room and grab the second ball. But at that exact moment, the entire cleaning crew shows up for the first time in 30 years, with one goal: cleaning up our remains after violently murdering us. But in some sort of divine miracle, the game decides enough is enough, and Grace pushes her assaultee off her. I don't remember this ever happening before, but I didn't care. And so we inserted the balls and made it to the central computer. It's just billionaire assholes running the world. Always has been. Fortunately for us, this PC is the only one left in the world with a working disk drive, finally letting us uncover the truth about our mother. She was seeing Spencer. Ew, that's disgusting. While Grace is busy dying from cringe, we'll use the time to catch up with Leon, who also made it inside, just with a few complications. To blow this place to hell, we had to get the elevator online first, which required us to go through the liquor gauntlet. These smooth brains are complete bullet sponges and can one-shot us, though that's more on me than on them. However, by parrying their jump attack, we get our hatchet prompt, letting us one-hit them, and that's what we are going to be abusing the living shit out of, letting us cruise through this area like it was nothing. With the key in hand, we restart the elevator, but in a last-ditch effort to stop us, the remaining lickers team up. But fortunately, there are these conveniently placed explosive barrels here, which we can use to send them straight back to hell. And even though the game almost fucks us over by making Leon have a seizure during the fight, we take care of the remaining troglodytes, making it all the way back to the central hub, just to die at its doorstep. In the meantime, Grace finally managed to regain her senses just in time to aid Leon. Zeno, like some massive aura farming dickhead, was just waiting for us to return. But Grace hasn't just discovered that her mum was choking on Spencer's schlong, but the true purpose of Elpis. In a last fuck you to humanity, Spencer hid away the holy grail of medicine, something so powerful it could cure any disease. No child sacrificing blood cult, just some good old-fashioned billionaire greed. Something so beautiful, it got Zeno so excited, his head exploded. Okay, that was weird. But at least we can cure Leon now. But
somehow Dr. Gideon returned.
He decided to take control and follow in his master's footsteps. But maybe he should have made sure everyone's dead and got out of here before doing his victory celebration, as the entire place comes crashing down. Fortunately, the cure did its miracle work, bringing Leon back to full power, ready to take on the embodiment of corporate greed. Our cancer may be cured, but our health bar's still in critical condition. So yeah, if we get lucky, we might survive a single hit. But phase 1 is surprisingly simple. As long as we pay attention to our sharpness gauge, he strings together quite a few hits in his combos, and if we run out of sharpness during his barrage, we're dead. Luckily, I found the perfect time to sharpen quickly. If we perfect parry his kick, we've got enough time to run past him, putting distance between us, letting us complete the sharpening process. Every other stagger we get, we use to unload on him, which brings us to phase 2. I'm not going to lie, I still don't really have a strategy strategy for. I have no idea if shooting him while he's in his Goku mode does anything. I just know he tweaks the fuck out, making his attacks insanely fast and frantic. Plus his jump attack is absolute bullshit. But something strange happened. As soon as he lands, we unload 2 Requiem rounds into him. Almost dead, we hit a third one, which makes him pull out a rocket launcher. And our 4th and final shot staggers him, dropping the RPG. We parry his follow-up attack and dodge past him to sharpen, where I spot this. We can take the RPG. And sure enough, it wins us the fight. No idea if that's the intended way, but this did not happen on my casual playthrough. However, we are not done yet. In a final act of fan service, Gideon transforms into his ultimate form, Nemesis, triggering instant PTSD, thinking about RE3 Remake's final fight on Inferno. But this time, they fucking nailed it. The attacks actually feel fair and fun to parry. You'll still get crushed if you don't manage your sharpness properly or mistime a parry, but when would that ever happen to me? We start off the fight by immediately shooting the big nutsack on his forehead, followed by a parry into another shot popping it, keeping our parry game up while we take out his little sacks. As soon as we hit the final one, we start limping to the left side to grab a grenade, letting us one-shot almost all the ones that spawn in when he goes down, bringing us to phase 2. Where following his smash attack, he'll turn up the heat, but we're in a flow state, hitting every parry, using the downtime of his slam attack to sharpen, finally popping the last ballsack, letting us finish him off with a stacked grenade. One final QTE and Nemesis is done for. We did it. We beat the challenge, hopefully. However, Grace is injured and the whole place is coming down. We may have stopped Gideon, but the Q is not making it out of here. At least it wouldn't if we didn't get assistance from an old friend. The day is saved, Umbrella's secrets finally exposed after 30 years. There was just one final question lingering on Grace's mind. Who was that picture for? And there you have it. Can you beat Resident Evil 9 on the hardest difficulty without healing, without bonus items and charms, and without using the blood collector? Yes, you can. But ask yourself, why would you? Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. The next RE9 challenge should just be a short 4-hour walk away.